Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. Depending on where in the world you are, obviously the greeting is a little bit different, but welcome to Run It Back, episode number 49. I'm your host, Menelik Fernandez, and I start all of these the same, so I will proceed to do so again with this episode. Basically, the premise of Run It Back is we take teams that have played previously and we run it back, so to speak. We talk about what worked in the game, how we prepared, how we focused on matchups, when we were going to throw the audible in terms of going away from the game plan, what didn't work, and then we go through a little bit of film with the coach that's involved. Pretty much since I think episode 6, we've been very fortunate to have coaches from the game in question join us. And today we will continue that streak. So today we're examining a game between Voorhees College and Lincoln Christian that took place in February 26th of 2021. So going on about 7 or 8 weeks ago now. And we're very, very fortunate to have the head coach of Voorhees College, Mr. Cabral Huff, join us today. Coach Huff, please allow me to try and do you some justice with a little bit of an introduction here. Coach Huff is just completed his first season as the head coach at Voorhees. Prior to that, he did 2 years as a head coach at Holy Innocents. He was 3 years a head coach at Duluth High School, where he had 3 state tournament appearances, along with the most wins in a 3-year period in the school's history. He did 1 year as an assistant at Alcorn State. I actually found conflicting info on this. I found 1 year and one place and 2 years on a different website. So please correct me at the end. Let me know. Did 1 year as adobo at Georgia Southern, and then at St. Francis in Alpharetta, he went to 5 state tournament appearances, including winning a state title. Coach Huff is one quarter of the gentlemen that have created the For the Love of the Game podcast, which I find really, really interesting, and I've tuned in several times, and also is one of the very big contributing members of the Embrace Us Foundation, if I've got that correct. So welcome. I'm thrilled to have you here, sir. This is actually a really, really fun experience for me. And as a side note, I definitely want to put it on camera. Coach Huff is also the person that I have had the most requests to join in on the call, to listen to hear what he has to say. So, Mr. Huff, it is a pleasure to have you here, sir. Welcome.
I'm just glad to be here. You've had some studs on here, so I'm just trying to follow that lead. I don't know why all these people want to listen to little old me. I mean,
If I'm not mistaken, you stand at 6'4", so I don't know about little old me. But yes, welcome. Let's start here. Voorhees is an NAIA, and this game takes place during the playoffs. The tournament is the conference tournament, if I'm not mistaken. Give us a little bit of the background of your league, of this conference tournament, the structure of it, how you get eliminated, how you move ahead, all that kind of stuff, please.
so our league is made up of about 14, 15 schools from anywhere from Missouri, Ohio, Florida, South Carolina. We're kind of everywhere, Arkansas, and it's the independent league. So it's a conference, but it's the independent conference league in the NAIA. So you have your Wilberforce, you have your Fisk, you have ourselves, Florida National, Florida College, College of the Ozarks, Washington Adventist, Lincoln Christian, Fisher. I could go on and on about people that are in our conference.
Right.
So this year was a little bit different. We had some teams that did not choose to play, but we still had about 11, 12 teams that decided to play. And basically what the conference did because of COVID was they took the best 4 teams and put them in a conference tournament based off record and based off strength of schedule. Now, because of where we started, like if you really go back and look at how many games, say Lincoln Christian or Crawley's Ridge, who were also in our conference tournament, how many games they had played versus how many we had played at College of Ozarks, there was a vast difference.
Right.
However, what really got us into the tournament was our strength of schedule.
Right.
Our strength of schedule was 14th overall in all of NAIA. So you're talking about Shawnee State, or whoever who won, the whole thing, all the way down to, however many teams are in it. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but we were 14th and only a condensed schedule. So that said a lot, and we were number one in our conference as far as strength of schedule.
So,
Now,
Coach, sorry to just jump in there, but having the opportunity to get to know you over this past year and listening to numerous conversations with you, I know you're not ducking anybody. And I know that some schools in various conferences throughout the world utilize COVID as a factor to take advantage of situations to get themselves in. And I know you played everybody, taking on all comers, trying to get better. So let me tip my hat to you and say I admire that for sure.
Appreciate it. We lost about 3 games that we weren't able to play. We went to Talladega and played, they were ranked probably all year, but they didn't get to come to us. We didn't get Middle Georgia to come back to us, who was pretty good this year. We didn't get Carolina to come to us. So those were 3 games that we didn't get a chance to, get better and improve. But, I really think playing those tough games, especially so many on the road, really helped us even going into this game. And so, like I said, our conference took the top 4 teams based off record, strength of schedule, and our conference gets 2 automatic bids. So it's a little bit different in AII. I mean, obviously you win the conference, you get to go to the national tournament. But if you get to the finals of your league, you get an automatic bid as well. In a normal year, we'll actually get 3 bids. So probably maybe if it was a regular season champion, if they didn't get to the finals, or whoever had the highest ranking would have got in. And it varies from conference to conference, but that kind of set up everything. We didn't even know we were going until February 22nd. They sent everything out on February 22nd to let us know who was going, what 4 teams were going, and who you would be playing and what seed you were.
Right. So this is a perfect segue, thank you, into my first question of, basically it equates to a 4-day turnaround. You're finding out February 22nd, like, you're probably going to play, and you could sort of piece together in your mind who it's going to be. But let's start with your process. Like, are you looking at the multiple teams and actually starting to put something together? Or are you just like, all right, we're going to wait and see who we've got, and then we're going to put it together for them? And then how do you dive in from there once you know who it is?
For us, we tried to wait because we just didn't know. I mean, we felt we had a good shot of getting in, basically, because, like I said, of our strength of schedule, but we just didn't know who we would play. So we just kind of waited until that came out. And as soon as it came out, I can't remember what time on that Sunday, my staff and I just started diving into how we were going to be able to beat Lincoln Christian. And that 4-day prep was really good for us. We were able to do some things for 2 days in practice, which didn't even involve, personnel. It just involved kind of, maybe 3-on-3 shell drill stuff, where we wanted to run actions that we could see from Lincoln Christian and possibly see from the 2 other teams we could possibly play if we got to the championship game.
Love it. I'm going to ask you to take me through those 4 days, really. So you find out, what is your typical process for a scout? Are you putting things on paper? Are you putting things on video? Are you doing a combination? And then if you are doing, just one or the other, or the combination of both, how many of their games are you watching to put together what you're looking at? And then what are you keying in those games? Sorry, it's a loaded question. It's a lot.
No, you're good. So typically, Coach Williams, who's my assistant, he dives right into it, and he begins breaking down film, as well as myself. And we want to look at their last 5 games, or 5 games, period. We want to look at their last 2 to 3, especially, to see, lineups, matchups, who comes in when, what are they running lately. And then we want to kind of look at close games. So if we look at 2 to 3 of their last games, then we want to look at 2 of their closest games, whether it was a win or a loss. Because in those games, you can see, what does the coach like to run in certain situations when the game is on the line? What is his go-to baseline out of bounds play? What is his go-to man-to-man or zone play when the game is on the line? What is his go-to lineup? So we like to see those kind of things, and we began diving into it. So that Monday, obviously, we're starting to put things on paper as a staff of what we're seeing and talking about it. But that Monday, we'll actually show a little bit of the team we'll play to our guys. And that
Right.
may just be a 5 to 6 minute clip of one of their games, certain clips of some of their games so they can see how this team plays, what they like to do. So for instance, for Lincoln Christian, we wanted to show our guys how we're going to have to run them off the 3-point line. They had like 4, 5, 6 3-point shooters who all shot 36% or better from the 3-point line. So we want to make sure that our guys understood we had to run them off the 3-point line.
Love it. What about things like matchups? Are you giving those early in the week, or are you doing them just for your starters, like basically when you're going in? And then with those matchups, do you give the same amount of information to all of your players, or do you specialize some of it for your guys that are going to play more minutes in the game?
So we give our matchups in this situation, we gave it on that Wednesday. Like we didn't
Right.
want to bog them down on Monday and Tuesday with the matchups. So we waited till Wednesday to give them that matchup because we're going to play Friday. That keeps it close in their head. So we talk about it in practice. They get it in our group meeting. They actually get a paper copy. We try to hit them in all three areas of
Right.
how they're going to get that information. We play a lot of people, and I know you watch the game film.
Yeah.
We go about 9 to 10 deep. So we don't sugarcoat it for just those 5 starters or just the top 7. We give it to everybody because, especially this year, we didn't have typical bigs. So a 6'5" guy who may usually play the wing as a 3 may have
Right.
had to fly down and play the 5 for us this year,
Right.
especially in some of our COVID games. So we give our scouting reports to everybody, our matchups to everybody. They've got to know what they have to do with certain people. And into that, especially early in the season, we switched a lot. So it
Right.
meant you could have a big guarding a guard. So they've got to know what that guard likes to do. Can I take a step back from him because he's a driver? Or do I need to jam him because he's a shooter and we're going to have help on the backside if he drives?
Right. I like it. I like the idea that you mentioned about giving everybody all the ways that they could possibly learn, meeting your guys where they are, right? Like if I'm an auditory learner, you're going to hear me speak it to you. If you're a kinesthetic learner, I'm going to put you on the court and walk you through it. If you're a paper learner, visual learner, then I'm going to give you the report. With your staff, you mentioned that your assistant starts with it. Do you guys do something uh, like a come together meeting before you decide what you're going to give to your players? And I'm assuming, obviously, as the head coach, you have final say what goes out. Do you shrink sort of what he's given you into like a more digestible form for your guys?
Coach Williams does a great job of it. I'm really one of the big proponents of allowing your assistants to be head coaches of their area. And
Right.
he's the head coach of scouting for us. So he'll usually send it to me a night or two before so I can look at it, add my notes to what I think. And then we'll come together the next day after he sent it to me and we'll go over what I've added, what I thought, what I think we need to take out before we actually send it and give it out to our guys. Usually we're pretty on point. I probably add more than I ever take out. So
Right.
I just see some different things, but he does a great job with that.
Do you have an ideal length of something that you want to give to your guys, or do you find that varies based upon matchups?
I think it varies based upon your team. I think you've got to understand your team and you said it great, meeting your team where they are.
Right.
So I understood, and I want to say this in the right way. Our team before I got here wasn't a scouting team. Like they
Right.
didn't do scouting reports. That wasn't something that they were keen on. They just kind of went out and played, talked about it before the game. Let's go out and play. So I had to understand that scouting report that I was used to at Alcorn State and Georgia Southern, I can't give them that thick booklet and think they're going to retain all that. So
Right.
we had to kind of chop it down, give them the nuts and bolts of what they wanted to see. So it was probably an extension of, in high school is a little bit different than college. So in high school, I wanted to prepare my guys, and it was probably a 1-pager, but they understood what a scouting report was. This was probably a little bit longer, about 3 pages.
Right.
Talk about it at that Division I level. Sometimes that thing can be a booklet.
Right. For sure. Um, I like to use this as an example, but sort of give me your stance on this. I think this follows into what we're saying here. Uh, the argument that I sometimes have is the jack of all trades versus the specialization argument, so to speak. So you mentioned, early in the season, you're switching a bit more. let's say we're talking about screen coverages for a particular matchup that you're about to have. Do you believe in playing like one standardized base coverage? We do what we do, and that's what we're going to stick to? Or are you okay saying, for Menelik, we're going to be, hard hedging, and for Coach Huff, we're going to be switching, and then you have different expectations in different areas of the floor or for different matchups? What is sort of your philosophy on that kind of stuff?
I think you have to judge on your team what you want to do, because I think you can't be good at everything. You've got to be great at something.
Right.
So what we worked on going into the season, we thought because we were kind of even around the board from 6'1" to 6'5". Obviously, you got a couple outliers there that we could guard everybody, guard everything. So we switched. However, we would switch everything, but in practices, we worked on different coverages. So we would take a couple of days, especially in our 3-on-3. We may do 3-on-3, and we're going to ice or down ball screens today. We're going to work 3-on-3 where we call it blitzing. We're going to blitz the ball screen today. And it just prepared us in case we got to a situation where we needed to switch something in the middle of a game, or we needed to switch something before the game because we saw something. And what you'll notice even in this game is we kind of moved away from switching, especially after that first time out, and we were getting our butts kicked. We kind of went to let's fight through these screens. Let's stay with it and not put our bigs in a disadvantage versus a couple of their quick guards who wanted to get downhill and kick it to guys and make shots.
Do you almost always do the same thing off ball that you do on ball? Because I noticed in this game watching it, there weren't a tremendous amount of ball screens happening. There was a lot of off ball movement for sure, and there was a lot of off ball hitting guys with some good, down screens, cross screens, all that. So like what's your philosophy? Do you keep it the same between the two there?
We try to, but we don't like laziness. We don't like guys who are not tough. So a lot of that comes because we compete in practice. So like if we're going to switch everything, we're going to switch it on every off ball screen, every on ball screen. If we're fighting through, we're going to fight through on every off ball or on ball screen. Because the more you stay the same and the more the communication stays the same, I think the better your defense can be.
Like it. What are your philosophies on excuse me, forgive me for a second, have an itch there. What are your philosophies on how many to the glass and pace of play that you want to play at, generally speaking? And then let's start moving away from your overall philosophies to what you decided was the meat and potatoes of this game.
All right, so we want to send 3 to the glass.
Right.
We actually want to send our guy who shot the ball and our 4 and 5 to the offensive glass every time.
Nice.
And then we want our other two, guard or wings to get back. We want to play fast. So we want to get out and run. So we expect our guys to really box out. And once we get that rebound, they've got to fill lanes. And you kind of saw that. I think we saw it better in the second half. And I know I'm jumping because I'm thinking about the game. You saw it better in the second half when we got layups just right off a rebound, couple of dribbles. We got layups because we were running the floor. We also like it because, I believe in shooters. I think you got to have shooters. And first half, you saw we were able to make a lot of threes, especially even in transition. So we like to really play fast, get out and run. Like I said, we want to send 3 to the glass on the offensive glass, the guy who shot it in our 4 and 5. And we just think we want to be tough enough to dictate. That's what we tell our guys every time. They're going to see that every time in pregame on the board, wherever we are. Be tough enough to dictate. And so one of our recruiting pitches is we like playmakers and monsters. So our monsters got to be guys that can clean the glass, and we like to have 1 through 4 who are playmakers, so they plays for themselves and to everybody else on the floor.
Lamar Barrett's on the call, and for those of you who don't know, this past weekend we presented a scout for the unmasked special that was for the national final, and you played the head coach, and I actually have really taken to the dictate term. I really like the idea of controlling the pace, controlling the outlook of the game, controlling the glass, all those kinds of things. Dictate is such a great word that I'm stealing from you. It's going in my scouts next year. It's just something that really hits home to me. Like, you have to set the tone, so to speak. So moving from general to specific a little bit with these particular guys, what did you identify as being your advantages? What maybe, what matchups were you looking at attacking? What pace were you looking at playing at? How did you think you were going to get your buckets? What sets were you going to? And then how much time did you spend working on those things throughout the week?
Well, we spent all week working on what we thought we could get done. We thought they could not guard um, if you had weak side or offside, any kind of screening action off the ball. We didn't
Right.
think they were very good with that. And you kind of saw that in the game. We didn't think they could play up tempo with us. Um, and I think that the score of the game indicated that. We thought we could take advantage of two of their bigs. Now, one of their bigs, number 41, Fields, I believe his name, is a pretty good player. He was a big piece for them to really shoot the three. But we didn't think him or number 23 could really guard our guys in space. And we really wanted to take advantage of those few things. It's funny because we actually felt we spent a lot of time on some zone stuff because I just felt they weren't going to be able to guard us man to man. So we wanted to make sure we were really good in zone. And they kind of went to that late in the first half, and we got a couple of layups out of it.
So don't spoil it, Coach. I've got a couple of film clips from it because I wanted to ask you about the seamless transition that you guys made there. So it's good to know that you prepped and went through it. So that's probably how. But let's talk about that in the video a little bit, if you don't mind, please. But in terms of the matchups that you wanted to attack, how did you want to attack them? Did you want to put them in the ball screen? Did you want to punch the ball? Did you want to do a lot of weak side stuff, as you were saying? What sort of was the keys for you?
We wanted to get them action. So a lot of it was some ball screen action, but we would get one of our guys who we really felt was great in the post, even though he was undersized. We wanted to take advantage of that, but also get some stagger actions or some down screen action on the backside, which I really think worked because they kind of got lost in that. And that's what we kind of saw on film. Defensively, we thought we were going to be better guarding them, to be honest with you, than what we saw during the game.
Right.
But I think we also knew, when we go back to that word dictate, even though they had a couple of quick guards who could really penetrate, could they handle that full court? And so we did a lot of work on that about let's dictate to them in certain situations, not the whole game, of where we're picking up and tiring them out. We didn't think they were as deep as we were. So we wanted to definitely take advantage of that.
I don't think very many teams are. You definitely look like you play your 11-12 and all 11-12 can get it done type deal, which is a good problem to have, having been on the other side of that ball where it's like, hey, I got maybe 5 or 6 that can go in this game. It's a good problem to have 11-12 and figuring out where.
I want you to say that next year when we bring in new recruits and now they're complaining about playing time.
I hear you. It's kind of like this argument that you can never win with guys, right? Overall, at the end of the day, it's like, can't make you happy. So now, in terms of like watching the game and prepping for this, would you say there are any things, like you didn't like the way you guarded the ball as well? Were there any things that were in your scout or in your build-up process that you would change, modify, extremely change or minorly change that maybe could have helped you? I mean, ultimately you got the W in this game, but could have helped you overall. Like hindsight's 2020, as they say. Going back and looking, did you omit something that maybe should have been in, or do you think you were pretty close in terms of what your report presented to them?
I think we were pretty close, but I think instead of having to make that switch, we would have just fought through the screens from the beginning.
Right.
Instead of trying to switch everything and putting some of our guys in bad positions. I think that's pretty much the major thing that I saw, because when we did that, and we talk about how we do scouting, you could see in the game a couple of our bigs, although they should know to scout, they were jumping up so much on a bunch of their quick little guards. Right. They were just driving them. So that's probably the biggest thing that we would have probably done differently if we could go back and do the game.
Now let's talk about in-game. When you're there, everybody's, the famous Mike Tyson quote is, everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the face, right? So you guys got punched in the face a little bit in this game. They came out swinging for sure. So, obviously you fought your way back in, ultimately get the W. But what are you tracking in game? What are you looking at box scores? What are you eye testing to say, all right, our scout is in line with what we want to do, we're not executing properly, versus our scout was way off and we need to throw an audible right here and do something totally different. How are you making those decisions? What are you looking at? What are you tracking?
So one of the big things that we chart, we try not to do too much charting on the bench. We have a great student assistant, Coach O, who does this, but we call them kills.
Right.
It's 3 stops in a row. And I know a lot of coaches do that, but we think, we go back to that word dictate, that if we get a certain amount of kills per game, then we've dictated the tempo. We've probably been able to push the tempo. Then we're getting stops. We're getting more possessions. And so we think based on how many kills we want to get in the game, then that's going to dictate how many possessions we want. Because we
Right.
want to have more possessions than the other team. We want to take more shots than the other team. Doesn't mean, like, when I say that, I think some people think, well, they're just going to come down and no pass or one pass and take a shot. No, we're not going to do that. That's really not what we want to do. But if we can dictate and get stops, which means we're getting a rebound, then we can definitely win the ball game by dictating the tempo. And the number of kills, we think if we get 8+ in a game, then we should win the game.
That's
If we're looking at box scores, especially for us, we lost a lot of games early where we were losing a rebounding battle. And I don't care what team you have, whether you're big, small, whatever, you've got to win the rebounding battle. So that's really big for us. And we want to have a certain amount of assists a game. We want to be 15 assists or better every game, because we're just a believer in if one person eats, everybody eats. And so we want to really move that basketball around. And we can kind of talk about that box score later, but we were able to do that in this game. And we want to limit our turnovers.
right.
Those are 4 big things that we really look at box score and that we really track. We do track deflections during the game as well, especially because of how we play. And you'll see it when you watch the film. We try to get out in passing lanes. We try to pressure the basketball a lot. So we do track deflections as well. Something we track after the game is number of passes.
Interesting. I actually, when I was at York University, did this for 2 years, and we kind of figured out like an ideal number in the half and an ideal number for the game as well.
And so we do that because we felt, based off film from the previous year, obviously we're a whole new staff, that there were so many times offensively that we didn't get what we wanted based off film from the previous year. It was just 0 pass or 1 pass. And it didn't matter if the guy took his man and got to the rim. You have so many possessions like that in the game, then what does it do to the other 4 or the 3 on the court when nothing's happening? And we're really big on communication. We're really big on family. We're really big on love and grace and truth and trust. So we track passes. And we there was a timeout in this game. As we get to it, we had about a 3-minute stretch, even when we were winning, but we just came down and it was 1 pass. And just because you're open don't mean you're supposed to shoot.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to get to the transition 3 question that I ask every week for sure in there. When you mentioned, sorry, let me just briefly mention that to anybody who's listening in, Coach Huff actually went ahead and answered the questions in the chat in that answer. So thank you, Coach Allen. Thank you, Coach Covell, for those questions. He's just on point as a guest, and I'm just playing catch up over here as the host. When you mentioned the rebounding, do you look at the rate of rebound, or do you just look at the gross total differential? And what I mean by that is like, how many are available at our offensive end versus how many we got, as opposed to just team A has 3 offensive rebounds, team B has 7 offensive rebounds, team B appears to be the better rebounding team, but of all the rebounds that were available, team A actually got 3 out of 5, so they got 60%. Like, does that play in?
It does. Ours is a little bit different. We think if it's a +10, meaning we're losing the rebounding battle by 10 or more, then there's an issue.
Right.
But I think you can lose the rebounding battle if you're getting so many more possessions, and if your field goal percentage was so high, then you're probably going to lose that rebounding battle.
Right.
Now, one rebounding battle, I don't care what the score is, what you shot, is offensive rebounds. And if we're losing the offensive rebounding battle, then we're pretty pissed, to be honest with you. Like, we can't give up second chance opportunities and second chance points, because then we go back to kills. It's not a kill if they get offensive rebound.
Right, because you haven't closed the
You
possession.
haven't closed the possession out.
Right, love it. I think that's all I've got in terms of the preparation part. Does anybody have any questions for Coach Huff before I get into a little bit of video? Nope. Awesome. Coach, when we do the video here, and I'm going to take the advice of some friends and open up only the video window this time. So before we get into the video here, I have some people who only listen and don't watch the show later on. So for each clip, I'll play it once so that everybody can see. I'll run it back again, and then just try to describe it for anybody who's listening. And then the third time through, it's all you. Let me know, let me know where to go in the clip, etc. But the third time through, basically, we're just trying to get your perspective as to what's going through. So each clip will be 3 times through.
Gotcha.
Are we good with the size? Can you see that? Does it appear okay? All right. So this first one this is actually the same set that you ran on the first play of the game, but you guys didn't get it. So you came back down and ran it again the second time. So it's a 4 high, has a bit of a wedge ball screen in there. Looks like you were looking to establish the post early in the game, and he rolls baseline and gets the score on it. So I'll try it one more time here. 4 high alignment, he pushes to the corner. There's a cross screen or a wedge screen to bring that player down into the post. And then the player on the help side of the floor comes up to the point. At the same time, the ball is punched. He rolls baseline, takes advantage, makes a great finish. Talk me through it. What are you trying to establish? What are options in the play? Were you pissed you didn't get it the first time and the guys knew they had to get it the second time? Take me through.
So number one, we usually come out and we know what we're going to run. What's our first play of the game? Usually
Right.
probably script the first 10, to be honest with you. And this is one of the plays we wanted to take advantage of number 20, Joel Davis. We thought he could really take advantage of their bigs down there. He's only 6'4", but he's a load. He's really a load down there. He's great around the rim, as you can see. And so what we're trying to do is that we give a fake kind of ball screen at the top to really start the action of the wedge and cross screen on the bottom to get him in position. Either they're going to have to switch that or that guy's going to be late coming over based on how he does it. If you watch this play, he actually caught it too far out for me. I really probably didn't like that. If you go back, I didn't like our actual screen to get into it. I didn't think we really hit anybody. And so that was probably an issue of why he caught it so far out. And then we're trying to get a stagger for one of our shooters to the top on the backside action. And if you really look, the shooter was open too. And he probably wouldn't have got the shot, probably could have drove it if he caught it, and he's one of our better shooters. But Joel did a great job of ripping through, driving that thing to the rim and finishing on the other side.
So a couple questions come up in my mind. First, in terms of the not hitting anybody on this screen, it does look like your guy right here screens nobody.
Yep.
Do you make adjustments in game for something like that, or is that a film adjustment at a later time period? And the same question would be true about the post location.
I think it's something you mentioned in the game and you want to harp on, but you really can't correct it until film. They've got to see that. I think guys, you can tell them that kind of stuff through the game and harp on it, but until they see this film and see you didn't hit a soul.
Right.
Like, look at where you're catching the ball on the post. When we do our, I'm actually, we don't have but 3 coaches here. So I'm kind of the coach over the bigs. Like I'm killing him the next day. Like, why are you catching the ball out there?
You're at the 3-point line. What are you doing?
Yeah, like, what are we doing?
So the other question that I would have, though, is, in my opinion, like you said, because this wedge screen is poor, doesn't hit anybody, it really becomes less of number 20's fault that he's so far out. Would you probably go a little bit harder on the gentleman who missed the screen than you would on the post player? Or
I'm going to get on him, because you got to understand, a lot of times the screen, guys think the screen is for them to score, but a lot of times the screen is to get somebody else to score. And so the harder you screen, the better you're able to screen, the better we're going to be as a team. And so I'm going to be all over him. And truth be told, he's an honorable mention All-American. So he gets it just as worse as everybody else
I hear you.
missing that screen.
As I mentioned, getting to know you over the past year, I know you're a team first and give yourself up for other players type coach. And I really firmly believe that teams take on the personality of their head coach. So when you mentioned being selfless and being able to do the right thing, I know that you're somebody who spends time on those kinds of corrections for sure. This is a defending clip. There's a weak side cut. I think this is kind of like a Maggette cut that I saw here. And I was just going to ask what your help side principles were. So to describe it, we've got a wing entry to the offensive left side. We've got a cross screen into the post or a wedge screen into the post. The ball is punched. There's a cut through, and then they swing it around the horn. And then here's sort of where the action happens. On the offensive left side, the ball's now on the offensive right slot. There's a pin down that happens and sort of a miscommunication between the two players. And then Six just sort of cuts over top from the slot and gets all the way to the rim with a left-handed layup. So I'll go back to the beginning. Coach, talk to me. Tell me what you see, how you would correct it. Without being married to the result, obviously.
Oh my! Well, where do we want to start? I think number one, Jordan Blue did a great job of pressuring right here. This is something that we had worked on during our preparation. They were going to kind of do a UCLA cut once they threw it to the wing and cut through and do some back screen action. 12, Willie Ferguson did a great job on the first catch here in the post. But again, I'm going to go back to our help position. So right now, if you just stop it right now, 20 is in a great position. Probably could be a little bit more, could be over a little bit more in our help position. But I don't like the positioning or the stance of number 33, Hector Rosario. Like, if that guy had cut right here, he's probably going to get a bucket. He's probably going to get caught behind him, and they can just post him up and score. So that's the first thing I didn't like. And you can play it now, and I'll tell you to stop again. So right here, Hector, again, if you go back to where 43 caught it, like this is something we talked about. 43 was a big for them who did not want to handle the ball. And Hector's a very good defender. Right now, he was being lazy. Like that was very lazy defense. He could have pressured him which would have allowed Joel, who was in the paint, in our help position, to sprint out, which he still did a great job of to contest and close out and did a great job of corralling the ball right here. But as they did kind of like a little ball screen, Taiwan Bowie kind of got caught on this little dribble handoff right here, but got through it, got back to it. But again, the miscommunication happened. We talked about this is where we would have did something different. We would have fought through all these screens on the weak side. So now their communication is bad on, okay, who's switching on who. And so guess what? They both stay with the same guy. 43 is kind of open. Now we're going to get the cut to the rim because nobody's really guarding anybody, and he gets a layup. And Hector, again, Hector had a bad defensive possession right here. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, he should have been in the hole right there to take the charge and to be ready. And I don't know what other clips you got, man, but you probably see later on we were in the hole a lot better later on.
Well, I mean, the thing about Run It Back is that we do often look at some of the ones that are a bit of an eye twitch moment. So don't hate me for bringing up some of the weaknesses. I got some of the good points in there for sure. But, the teaching usually happens on some of the ones where, unfortunately, we got to go at a guy every now and then. What is your principle for number 32, Hector, here as he's going through? Do you encourage him to remain in help, or is he supposed to exit and follow?
So where the ball is, where that guy is, and where he's going to catch, he should remain in help. Jordan Blue, number one, is probably halfway, so he's probably in a good spot where he could have dove down to help him. I would have liked Taiwan Bowie because that guy, I think that's number 11. He's not in the scoring area right there. He's not going. Right. I mean, there was nothing on film that showed us he was going to shoot that ball from that deep. Now, if he was somebody we call Steph Curry, Trae Young, then yeah, he should have been that far up. So he could have been down a little bit, which would have deterred the drive some, which would have helped Hector a little bit. But Hector should have been right in the middle of that lane with Jordan Blue in between 43 and the shooter out there, number 30.
Do you, on the help side here, number 12, who gets beat with this curl cut through the nail, do you encourage your help side players to make contact with the cutters?
Yes.
We call it smashing the flash up here.
Yep.
Yeah.
He should have bumped that cutter. And worst case, if he didn't bump the cutter, The ball was on the other side of the floor, so he already wasn't in help anyway.
Right.
Which is why he got beat off the curl anyway. So, two bad decisions by both guys on the weak side of the floor, which started off bad communication.
Right. Moving on, what do we got here? I think we got one more defending clip. This is a multiple side action. I'll try and describe it as we go through. We got a wing entry with like a corner or butler cut happening. There's an exchange on the help side. The ball gets swung. And then we enter to the high post, and there's a cut over the top. They give it back, and they swing it. And then this give back and swing leads to the person who shoots the ball, his man going under on the other side, produces long closeout, he hits it. So this one's another one that's a bit of a eye twitch moment. Walk me through it, coach. Tell me what you see, how you correct it.
Play starts off well. We did a great job on the entry. Again, Jordan Blue did a great job of ball pressure on guys. He does it here. So if you continue to go, we're exactly where we need to be as the possession starts, as they're beginning to swing it, and you can press play.
Sorry, we had a question in the chat for the last one. Let me just go to that real quick. James Colville said, I know you used Curry and Trae Young for deep three shooters. Do you use other names for other players depending on what they do for the scout, such as like a Rondo is a very popular one type deal?
So we try not to use names because, some of our players say, oh, well, Trae Young isn't that good anyway.
Right.
So if it's a green means like he's a shooter. Like he's a shooter. Yellow means he's a driver and a shooter, and red means he's just a driver. So we kind of keep it to colors for us. I try to keep things simple to make it easier for our guys.
Like it. Appreciate it. Sorry. So we're going back to the clip. Clip started out well, as you said. Wing entry, you're playing pretty straight. I'm not sure. And then you asked me to advance the clip, so we get into the cut and the swing.
Right. We're still good right here. Probably could have pressured again a little bit more. And I'll say this, if you stop it, this was probably one of the worst games Hector Rosario had, not just defensively, offensively, like all season. He led us in every statistical category, and this was by far his worst game if you go on film. So again, probably could have had more pressure there. Willie Ferguson does a great job. This is where it starts to get bad. So Taiwan Bowie is late, number 21, as they're about to do this dribble handoff at the top. And so that starts all the bad action that's about to happen defensively. So now because he's late on the dribble handoff, he's trying to play catch up. And there's no catch up. Hector Rosario gets lost on the down screen. Him and Joel don't communicate. They get a wide open three. It's just bad. I don't even know what else to say about that.
So for your typical coverages, number 21 here should be locking and trailing and going.
Should be locking and trailing that. Because that guy is actually a pretty good shooter coming off that. And we would have had to help defense, as you see Jordan Blue there. We would have had to help defense if he drove it. And so on this, we worked on this flare action that they wanted to do a lot of times off this play. And so in reality, I'm getting on Hector, but Joel, we were switching right now. So Joel should have already known that was coming and should have been out there on that flare screen on that switch. And Hector would have picked up his guy. And you still had Jordan Blue in the help position.
And sorry, just for me being a layman on this one right now, you're saying on this flare action, the ideal coverage would have been 22 switching under, and then this gentleman here, I believe it's 20, picking up the person coming off of the flare would have been his closeout.
Correct.
Okay. So to me, the question that I had, and now it makes perfect sense, would be why Mr. Rosario, I believe you said his name was, dropped so low to go under the flare as opposed to chasing over the top. But if you're switching at this point in the game, I now understand. Perfect.
And this is about the point where we decide we just got to fight through. Like, forget this switching stuff. We just got to fight through.
Right. Gotcha. All right, next clip. We're stuck in help. We produce a long closeout. So here's one more. I promise you, Coach, they get better. Don't worry.
Hey, it's good because you got to realize now we were down 16-2, so I understand.
We made a pass to the right slot. He attacks the nail, and then there's a corner three on the opposite side. Because the gentleman who guarded the cutter through, stayed in the hole, and we don't X on the help side. So he ends up hitting an open three. Talk me through it, sir.
Oh, well, even before you get to the X on the weak side, let's go back to that ball screen. That
Right.
ball screen defense was very bad. So right now, we're still switching, right? So Joel doesn't do a great job of stepping up. Like, I hate lazy switches. Like, even if he did what he was supposed to do, he's so deep that's gonna be a lazy switch.
So coach, can I interject for a second and ask you to take us through your principles on how you teach switching? What is the ideal formula for you in terms of what you would be teaching?
So we want to talk about dictating again, and we know that switch is coming. All right. So Joel's got to be up. Like, he's got to be connected to his guy so he can begin to take that guy who has the ball.
Right.
Which really sometimes is almost like you're trying to ice it or down it to keep it on that side of the floor almost. Because if he does what he's supposed to do and he's up in 22 and he's right there to take the ball handler, 9 times out of 10, that ball handler might have to stop and go back the other way.
Right.
And we did neither one of those things on the switch right there. And we compounded it by, heck, I don't even know if he tried to get a steal, but he just gambled and got out of position, which now anytime you allow people to get to the paint, and we work on this every day, if you allow paint touches, you will get beat.
Right.
Every time. And so
He
now
he had a little bit of a poke there for sure.
yeah,
He was off to the races. You can tell.
and doesn't get back into play. And so now here's a paint touch right here. Jordan Blue does a great job to try to help, but now they're playing 5-on-4.
Right.
So somebody's going to get open. Willie, even if he tries to get out there, 43 is going to do a great job of making sure he doesn't. And now they're going to have a layup. And Jordan Blue did a great job. You know, you could talk about bad possessions, but he gave extra effort to stop the drive and then to try to go get the closeout right there.
Right. So in your defensive scheme, I mean, originally that is his man that ends up shooting. He stops in the hole, he helps on the drive, and he tries to recover.
We should have X'd that out. So now what that means is Taiwan Bowie should have took that guy going to the corner, right? And that would have been a shorter closeout for Jordan Blue to get to 15.
Like it. We got an offensive one. This is just an easy one. I ask this every week. Transition threes. And for anybody paying attention, you notice the score is now about to be 22-21. Obviously, there's been some fight going on to get back into this game here at this point. But transition threes, what's your philosophy? Can anybody take them? Do you believe in them? At what point do they just become jacking it up? Like, how does it work with Coach Huff?
You better be in that gym a lot making shots, so I know you can take it. So obviously the guys that we know can make it. We love transition threes, man. We love them, especially for guys that can make them. But we talk about red light, green light for guys who can't. Like, you shooting a three in transition, you're not a shooter. That might be a quick way for you to come sit next to me.
Right.
But guys that can make it, we love it because defense doesn't get set. Most guys teach, when they're teaching transition defense, sprint back to the paint. So if you sprint back to the paint, that allows guys who can make shots to be wide open. And if you really look at this possession, we've got 3 shooters ready to shoot in this possession. 24 is one of our better three-point shooters. The guy who made it, Staten Levine, is one of our best shooters. And 21 is in the corner. He's one of our better shooters. And we had our rim runner who was already at the rim, trying to get a rebound. And Malik Wood was a point guard, made the right pass. And so it was to us, that's a great possession for us.
Love it. Do you actually have the conversation to the effect of, you are now a green light shooter, in my opinion? Or do you more likely have the conversation of, hey man, I'm looking at what you're shooting for the year. I'm seeing how few times I see you in the gym. You've probably become a red light shooter in my mind. We should probably discuss what kind, like, are you working from the affirmative or from the negative, so to speak, in terms of?
It's probably more from the affirmative. It's just that's kind of what we believe in our in our program, but we're all going to use those stats to kind of show, like, listen, right now, you're a 25% three-point shooter. So let's figure out why is that? Does that mean you're taking bad shots?
Right.
Or we just aren't in the gym enough to make those shots that we're taking?
Right. And are there possessions that transition three is just, even for a good shooter, is not okay? Like, does time and score and all that matter? Yeah.
Time and score are very important with that. And there are times, like, you can get up and down, and we like to dictate pace.
Yep.
But there are times where, all right, now we need to get a dip. Like, we've come down, maybe in transition, we missed a couple of threes. Well, now, especially as our point guards, they've got to understand, all right, now's not a time for the we've got to run something. We got to get a good possession right now. And I think that's something we'll get better at, to be honest with you, mentally. In my first year, condensed time, I think there was many times where our point guards were learning on the fly what we wanted as a staff, what I wanted as a head coach.
Right. I mean, being the first year at a new spot, something I went through as well the last season that we played, for sure, there's going to be some things where it's like, yeah, I guess I could have introduced that a little bit earlier. So we'll put that in now. This will be the rule going forward type deal, learn it, etc. But like, we're all figuring each other out. You don't have the seniors on the team that have played for you for 2, 3, 4 years to really be like, no, we don't do that here, or coach doesn't want that kind of stuff. We got one in the chat. Do you track shots in practice, from James Koval?
We don't track it individually, only because we just don't have enough personnel, James. But we try to make sure each player gets 200 to at least 250 shots in practice. And
right.
So, like, I think that's the big thing people got to realize. Like, yeah, guys can come in on their own, and our guys did a great job of coming in at different times of the day to get shots up. But we want to make sure our practices are opportunities for them to get shots up as well. So we do tons of shooting drills, full court shooting drills, and we track it. We have winners and losers in everything that we do, including our shooting drills. And I think that helps us become a better shooting team.
I like that. Coach, would you say you do a lot of skill development in practice?
Yes, we do. I just think there's you've got to handle you before you can handle anybody else.
Right.
I think part of my thing is we've got to develop our guys too. I'm not the college coach that thinks everybody's going to come in and be developed. We got to develop them. We've got to make them better than they were from the day they walked in the door. So we're going to do skill development. We're going to work on little things. Some of our guys don't like the fact that we're going to work on passing, but you got to be able to pass the basketball, especially how we play. You got to be able to make the right pass, the right decision. So we're going to do skill development. We're going to spend time with guards and bigs. We're going to spend time, Coach O, who's our student assistant, is great at skill development and working with all our guys. And like we said, we want playmakers and monsters. So we want all our playmakers 1 through 4. They got to be able to handle the ball.
Love it. I like your stance, and somebody in the chat said preach, sir, because I find that a lot of coaches want everybody to be a finished product, and like there's not that many finished products that exist out there, quite frankly. You do have to do some coaching and some developing at our levels for sure.
And then I'll say this, everybody looks at that freshman especially, and they look at the freshmen that are able to go 1 year and they're done. Like, let's really look at the numbers of that. How many freshmen can go and be one and done? There are not a lot of those.
No.
Let's look at the freshman that takes time, that you got to really develop and really see that finished product in year 3 or 4.
Okay. And I think a lot of coaches forget, just as we mentioned previously, what an asset that player becomes for you.
Yes.
Because they've gone through your system. They know what you like, and they can convey it forward. And, similar to being a parent, like, not everything that you say as a parent your child wants to hear, but if somebody else reiterates it for you, then coming from somebody else becomes an effective tool.
Correct.
So let's move past the transition 3. This is a guard your yard type deal, just a real breakdown. I'm wondering really where help should have come from on this play. So for anybody listening, he's just trying to turn him on the offensive left slot. They cross half court, gives him a little bit of a spin, and he gets all the way to the rim for a wide open.
I can tell you exactly where, because I remember going back and watching this and going, so Stan Levine did a great job. We wanted to definitely get up on 23 to make sure it wasn't an easy catch at the high post for him. And
Right.
a lot of people say, well, why was 22, who's over in the corner, verse 41, why is he hugged up on his guy once this happened? Well, he was a stealth, like he was a shooter, green.
Right.
Wherever, we did not want him to touch that thing at all. Because, and if he did, we wanted to make him put it on the floor. So Terrell Wyndham should have been stopping right there, number 24. He should have stopped right there. And if he had stopped right there, guess what? That ball's probably coming out that guy's hands, number 30, and now we can get back where we're trying to go. Now, I do think Malik probably overplayed a little too much on the ball, which put us in a bad situation. I think when you talk about guarding and defending your yard, many times, especially now, guys think, well, I got to get a steal. No, you don't have to get a steal. That's why there's a shot clock up there.
Right.
Like, we just want to turn them. We just want to make it difficult for them. And I think when he took that last reach right there, boom, and now we're in a bad position. Staten Levine probably could have stepped one step and gotten back, but really Terrell Wyndham is that guy that's deep in the hole that should have been that help defender.
Right. And the interesting thing about the on-ball defender, in my opinion, if right here he doesn't go from behind,
Oh,
I think he's actually faster
yep.
and could have at least been on the hip, but probably have cut him off by the time he gets to the block.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to my question, and Coach Malloy, I see your question in the chat. I'll get to it in 1 second, but it brings me to my question. The propensity of our athletes to reach is prolific. What do you do teaching point, punishment wise, reinforcement wise, all those kinds of things to try and deter that from happening? And what is your standpoint on it? Is there a time and place for it, or is it never okay in your offense? Like, how do you teach and make adjustments based on that?
We really just talk about guarding, man, and we none of what we talk about in guarding our yard has anything to do with steals or reaching. And some of that just comes down to, I think we call it the Kobe drill, where there's 30 seconds on the clock, and that guy has to keep going through to half court and back and guard the next guy and keep turning them. You don't get a stop by reaching. You're still in there for 30 seconds. And a lot of times, if you do reach, that 30 seconds starts over. So we're trying to teach beating the guy to the spot, making them turn. And so those little things like that kind of seep into guys' minds of how they're going to turn people, how they're going to really work.
I would agree. And I think that's a natural segue to Coach Malloy's question. He says he has some young guys. They want to play basketball at the next level. They're not taking the weight room serious right now, as they should. How big is strength and conditioning in your program? And Coach Huff, after you answer, I'll let you know my answer.
If you're not in the weight room, then you're going to get beat. I don't care who you are, what level you are. I'll just take it back, Coach Malloy, to I was blessed enough to coach a couple of guys or three guys that have some run in NBA, one definitely on the NBA roster, another two on G League rosters. And as freshmen, they didn't believe in the weight room either until we ran into a group of guys named Eric Lockett, who played at North Carolina State, and Lorenzo Carter, who plays in the NFL, and Kenny Gaines, who played at Georgia, and they beat us up in the Sweet 16. And at that point, I never had to worry. The next day, I was getting a text, Coach, when we go into the weight room.
Right.
So sometimes the young guys got to be shown why they need to go to the weight room. But I think it's very important. And it's funny because I was watching Last Chance U, and I don't know if I'm going to steal it, but he goes to the weight room right after games.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that's interesting.
I don't know that that's the ideal time. I don't know from like a load management perspective that that's the ideal time to be doing it. But,
right.
But they get it in and they get it done for sure. And it creates a mindset without a doubt. And Coach Malloy, I'd like to answer your question as well. And I'll get to Tim Peets and James Kovals immediately after. But from my perspective, like, there's a couple things in there that come to mind right away, right? Like, first of all, the analogy is, the NBA is no boys allowed, right? Like, you're grown men if you're playing in the NBA without a doubt. And then the next thing that comes to mind is that players are always like, I want to play pro. I want to play pro. And then they don't want to play pro when they see what is actually involved in becoming a pro. Like, these gentlemen are working on their craft all the time, right? They are in the gym. They are eating healthy. They are sleeping healthy. I was in a call. Can't remember who it was. I think it might have been JJ. I was in a call with an NBA player this summer, and it was like 10:30, and he was like, "Hey guys, I got to get off. I'm going to bed. Have a good night." And
It
like
was it was JJ, man. I was on that call too.
right. And I mean, that's a grown man who's in his 30s, who's a multimillionaire who could do whatever he wants, basically. But he's like, nope, extending my career, taking care of my body. I'm going to get sleep. I need this rest. So like a lot of young gentlemen don't really realize what's involved. They might be pretty good athletes and their sample size is relatively small. Like, hey, I'm the big fish around here. Yeah, well, the world's a pretty big place. There's about 8 billion people, and there's a few guys that are monsters compared to you. And then my last thing is, I'm half West Indian. The West Indian saying is, those that don't hear must feel. So just like Coach Huff said, right? You've coached some really good talent. I don't need to be in the weight room. Well, you're going to feel that because
Right.
somebody's going to put a shoulder into you one day and you're going to be like, damn, I should have been in the weight room. That's what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
Sorry, Coach Malloy, I missed what you said. Pardon me.
Oh no, I was just gonna share real quick. I coached a guy that played football for Notre Dame this year, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, probably gonna be a top 20 draft pick. And seeing him as a freshman and seeing his transition, going to the weight room, we shared that with the guys. And some of these guys are freshmen, upcoming freshmen, and they're like, "Man, I don't need to work hard in the weight room." I'm like, "Look at this guy, man. After workouts, I used to drive him home every day. He'd be like, hey, can I either go to church, the library, or the weight room?" That's where he stayed. Now he's about to be a multimillionaire.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, like, a lot of people are athletes, but to be an elite athlete, you have to take your craft serious and be elite at it. You're trying to distinguish yourself from everybody else. Going into what Tim Pete said in the chat, do you guys play one-on-one in practice, Coach Huff? And do you penalize them for reaching, even if they end up stealing the ball, getting the stop, going the other way?
We don't penalize for reaching because we're competitive. So, which means if they reach, they probably got beaten. The guy probably scored unless it was a foul. And if they fouled, the other team gets a point anyway. But we try to do something one-on-one every day in practice. We just compete. Anybody that has been around me or seen us practice know how hard we compete. And I think that's evident of why we talked about it. It was 16-2 in this game.
Right.
And
we just compete. 24-22 right now.
Right.
Yeah. And then James Colville put in, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you just have a player win a national championship somewhere?
I did. Adam Flagler, who played for me at Duluth. And he's a testament to that weight room too, Dan. Like, even though he was freshman of the year at his previous school, which was Presbyterian, when he goes to Baylor, he has to sit out. Like, I think there's some benefit in the sitting out. Everybody's talking about this new rule of coming in and playing right away, but a lot of those guys at Baylor sat out, and you could see the difference in their bodies. And you could definitely see the difference in Adam Flagler's body.
Okay. You see a difference in their level of compete, in my opinion. Yeah. Take something away from a guy for a year and watch how much he wants to do it if he really does love it.
Preach.
Let's go back to film. Sorry. Let's get on to the next clip here. We are in a 4-low. This is an action that I just really liked. It's a screen-to-screener type action. So the ball side backs up. There's a screen and then a screen-to-screener action for the corner 3 at the wing. Take me through it. Are there other variations, options within it if you guys don't get what you want here?
So this is actually a special situation for us. And Terrell Wyndham had been knocking down threes, so I wanted to keep the shooter hot.
Right.
And so usually what happens is that we get the same action with our 4-man popping up right there. And basically what we're trying to get normally, we don't get the back screen right there from the shooter. He pops up and we're getting some dribble handoff action. Well, now what we're trying to do is use the same formation that we've done and do something totally different. So if you go back, you see Terrell even slipped. Yep. And we still were able to get everything that we wanted out of it. But we go back to screening, and Jordan Blue does a great job of screening. Like, he didn't try to slide again because the guy was coming through. He just stood his ground, and Terrell Wyndham got open and knocked down the shot. And we're going to talk about being able to shoot at the next level. Like a lot of times you watch clips and you watch high school games and can a guy shoot? Well, wide open shots don't make shooters. It's when guys are closing out on you with a hand in your face, are you a shooter? And as you can see, that guy's still going to get there and close out on him, and Terrell's still going to be able to make the shot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, such a big difference between levels is shot making ability.
Yep.
And they often say, if you can't affect my motion, then you're not changing my shot, really. I'm just going to give a shameless plug. I haven't been active on it in the past 2 weeks, and I apologize. But I run a baseline out of bounds Twitter called Hoop Lobs, and you'll see this appear there pretty soon. Like it, simple screen to screener action, wide open shot from the corner three. What do we got in the chat here, gentlemen? The window for an open shot closes much quicker at the collegiate level. This is very, very true.
Facts.
Very true. As Coach Huff says, they want monsters, and some of those guys can get out there pretty quick. I remember getting fouled one time by a 7-footer who took one step from the paint. And I was just like, how are you even here? Like, this doesn't make sense to my mind. This three also put you guys up, give you a nice little cushion there in the first there. Here's an elevator set. You don't get the primary action on it. Talk to me a little bit of play after play as soon as we're finished with it. So, I mean, basically they attacked the right wing. There was an elevator up to get nothing. It's a swing and a punch on the right block. Let me back it up. So attack the right wing. Here he comes through. Don't get what you want out of it. So then we swing the ball and then we punch it into the post. And we get some second side action here. He does catch a little bit far for an open three. So talk to me about play after play, not getting what you want out of the primary action. Do you have principles, automatics that you run, all that kind of stuff?
So definitely we want to get that elevator screen. What we missed off this is really the guy that passes the ball to the guy at the top, which was Jordan Blue. He should have down screened for our other shooter right here. As soon as that he should have down screened, and we didn't get it. And that happens from time to time, but we try to work on, we want to play fast, but we also want to run sets. We run a lot of quick hitters. Those are our sets, quick hitters. And then after our sets, we want to be able to play. So we do a lot of stuff in practice of how do you play? How you getting somebody else open? So, okay, the ball goes back. We didn't get what we wanted. So now we've got to play. We've got to know how to play. What are we trying to do? So again, where was our advantage that we talked about early in this game in our scouting report? We didn't think they could guard our undersized 4-man Joel Davis in the post. So obviously ball goes back to number one. We kind of space out, good spacing. As soon as he passes it, we look inside and we're getting action away. Nobody's really kind of standing right there. We got good spacing. And when you get good spacing, it allows teams that have great help, which we knew they were going to do, they get caught. And so they got caught ball watching against a guy they probably knew could take advantage of him in the post, and we get a wide open three on the weak side of the floor.
Do you do anything automatic wise in terms of screening top help on the help side, or cutting from the help side where you're always burning, say, your best cutter or your worst shooter? Like, what are sort of your philosophies on that kind of stuff?
I don't want to say all the time, but obviously if it goes in a post, we want to cut or we want to screen. We're kind of big on screening away or basket cutting. Those are the two biggest things we want to do, especially if there's not a ball screen situation. You either got a basket cut or you've got a screen away to get somebody else open.
Love it. This one we kind of talked about a little bit in the preparation portion where they just randomly threw a zone in. I mean, you played 17 minutes of the game. They go to it for 1 or 2 possessions. And in my opinion, when I watched this clip, there was none of that 3-second, 5-second, shit, it's a zone, what do we do type deal. Your men just seamlessly switched into it. So they were obviously prepared. They had the expectation that it might be thrown at them. Talk us through a little bit of your principles. You said you do quick hitters. Do you do quick hitters against zone, or do you just try to get, attack the nail, attack the short corner, go 1-3-1 type deal? What are you looking for?
We have some quick hitters and we want to attack it, but as soon as we saw it, we've got some stuff that we run where we're just really trying to, have a guy at the high post, and we're trying to move the basketball and get different people in different spots. And it really helps us because if you look out on the floor right now, again, we are 6 feet to 6'5". So we can put somebody, no matter if they're 6 feet, he can be in the short corner. No matter if he's 6'5", he can be bringing the ball now. So I think that helps us. And we worked on it. We knew that at some point they were probably going to go zone because, like I said, I didn't think they could guard us man-to-man the whole game.
So one thing that I've found is that, like, I film all of my practices, and we try to work with concepts when we're playing against zone, as opposed to, we do have one or two quick hitters for sure, but like we try to just basically, hey, we're going to occupy the nail, we're going to occupy the short corner, and we're going to try and rotate through things. We're going to attack with cuts, we're going to attack on the dribble. But I found that players' creativity a lot of the time is probably one of the best ways to beat a zone. When you give them a concept to play within a framework, it's like, I mean, look at this. These guys decide, all right, let's put it into the high post, and you got the little shallow cut that happens there creates a split on the back right away. And now it's like you're playing 2-on-1 in various areas of the floor, open shot. And a lot of the time, players can do it better than we can draw it up, for sure.
And the two things we talk about when we talk about zone is inside out.
Right.
Like, so you've got to create something to get because a lot of times people see zone, oh, let's just jack up a three. It's got to be an inside out three. And the two spots that have to be filled for us are high post and short corner. Don't care who it is, they've got to be filled. And even in this possession, they were always filled, in that possession.
We got one more zone. We'll come back to it a little bit later. So this is another play after the play type action. So you get into an Iverson cut. There's a ball screen and a help side stagger, kind of a common play, I'd say. But you don't get anything out of the primary action. So talk to me a little bit about, again, play after the play type actions, what your guys should be looking for, if it's scout specific, et cetera. I mean, they punch the ball, obviously, again, here into the post. So that's obviously something you were looking for in this game. But take me through it from the top here.
Definitely, it's an Iverson cut. We want to go right into it. Like, everybody kind of runs this. In reality, I probably thought he probably could have shot that if he had gave it to him quicker or curled it, to be honest with you. But so we don't get anything, but we go right into, once he doesn't get anything, you'll see our guys, we cut right away. We look in the post, which we wanted to do. We just didn't get the action or the bucket that we wanted. Even 22 backside, tried to cut a little bit. 21 cut off the post action of making a pass. We had movement. Another guy moved off the post entry. So it's really just playing after the play, movement, basket cuts, like we said, screening away from somebody. We just didn't get the bucket that we wanted.
So, Coach, going back into the question of teaching this a little bit, do you rely on the small-sided games or the one-on-ones or those kinds of things to translate to play after the play? Or do you have like a section of your practice that is dedicated to, we're broken down, now what? Like, how do you approach that?
We do it both ways, actually. So we're going to always do 3-on-3 at some time. And I think that way we work on two things with 3-on-3. A lot of times that's where we work on our different ball screen coverages with only three defenders. But that way you're not running a play. So how are you going to do after the play? That 3-on-3 helps us of how you're supposed to move and cut, and what you're supposed to do with that. So that helps us a lot. And then we do a lot of late clock situations. And a lot of people think that means that means under 8. But in reality, it's after you've called that quick hitter and maybe now you're at 20 or maybe now you're at 15 before you get to under 10 or under 8. And what are you going to do after the play is broken down? And we got so much better at it as the season went along. Early in the season, the play don't work. 21 catches the ball. It would have been just dribble. And that's not what we want.
Right. I just noticed Mike DeCracker had asked me for the link. Sorry, Mike. Obviously, you found it. My apologies. What do we got next? This is an offensive play. I think I only threw it in because it was the first after timeout in the second half. So you get a wing or side ball screen, a reject. Don't get really anything out of it. Begin swinging the ball to the other side. Top ball screen swing, punch the ball. And then we get a little like nail jumper. Exactly as you drew it up, coach, or more play after the play type stuff? What were you
More play
looking for?
after the play. We wanted the initial ball screen action and to keep running it. But it's something we do all year, so they scouted it pretty well of what we wanted to do. But we did a great job of after the play action here. Again, ball went to the post. He cut. He flashed right to the middle. We got the little jumper that we wanted. There was constant movement on this play, and I think that's what really set it up to make it work. And a little nuance that a lot of people don't see. If you run it back when he caught that ball in the post, Malik Wood did a veteran thing. Like he moved without the basketball, but he spaced himself out to give if they were going to go double that post, it wasn't going to come from the guy who passed the ball.
Right.
Spacing himself out. But it also opened up the other side of the floor because of his spacing. Spacing is so big in basketball.
For sure. I love the automatic cut from the top. I also found in watching this game, this particular player in the post was a great passer. And that to me, like the majority of what I'm playing now is post to pass, right? So you get your cutting going as opposed to post to go and score, which is, I guess, becoming a little bit obsolete in the game. But I mean, just, being patient, letting things develop. He did a great job, in my opinion. We got an offensive set here from you guys. It's a horns entry to the forward. It's a staggered away, and then a angled handoff and attack. And he doesn't finish, unfortunately, but I love this set. It's not one that I see often run at the college level. I see it probably quite a bit more frequently at the pro level where they're trying to come off on this angle towards strong hand. Take me through and talk to me about like reads, etc., while it's attacking, please.
Man, so this is one of our bread and butters. And then to be honest with you, the first option is that guy who catches it. Like we want him to be able to rip through and attack because it's a two-sided game over there now. Like if he rips through and attacks to his strong hand, either he's gonna get by him or the guy on the strong side's got to help, and now you just kick it to the open three.
Right.
All right. So that's our first option. But obviously, this stagger coming away, a lot of people think the stagger is for a shot right here, but we want the stagger into the dribble handoff because we want to create so much action for the defense to have to guard that it makes it difficult. And we did a great job of that. So he goes right into it and gets that stagger right into the dribble handoff. I think Staten probably could have dribbled at him a little bit more to create more space on the other side because that's what we really want. And Taiwan Boy did a great job. He turned the corner on it. They gave the help. And if we're in film, I'm telling him to kick the basketball, to be honest with you. So we can knock that three down. Our guy's ready. His hands are ready. He is ready to catch and shoot that basketball. Everything that we tell him to do. But everything other than that about this play, other than maybe Staten maybe dribbling at him a little bit more, was exactly what we wanted.
Love it. A couple things that I have questions on, just because I like this set a lot. So, I mean, when you get your forward entry here, just like you said, he could rip and go. Mm-hmm. He could play DHO and roll on that side of the floor. You guys could get somebody slipping and popping from the stagger. You could get the stagger coming off for the shot. You could get him coming for the ball, like you said. So my question is, with all those millions of options that are in there, do you have different play calls for all of them? Or do you let them sort of try and read what's in front of them and then correct via film?
We try to let them read what's in front of them and correct via film. Now, there are some things that we can see through scout, like we think they're going to guard us like this. We think this part of the action is going to be open, so let's take advantage of this.
Right.
But a lot of what we want to do is that we want to recruit guys with high basketball IQ.
Right.
We want guys who want to watch film, want to get better, who are in the gym, who spend time with their individual coach, whether it's me with the bigs or Coach James or Coach O with guards and wings, that they're able to see certain things of how we want to guard or how we want to attack things offensively. And so, like, for instance, he finished. If you let this play right here, because I think I want to make sure, I want to see exactly how he finishes on this. So Taiwan Boy, 6 feet, right, smaller guard, knows he's going up against bigs. So one of the things that he has to get better at, and there's nothing we haven't told him, is going off two. Like if he goes off two right there, he can now turn and hit Staten back at the top for the three, or definitely kick out for the shot. Those are just little things of how we want our guys to read and know basketball and know how to make the right play.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, he's done his job. Basically, everybody's in the paint. Spray it out at this point, right? We got a couple questions in the chat for you here, Coach. Give me 1 second. So the first one was from Coach O'Bannon that said, on post entries, is it designed to have the top guy cut, or is that the four-man diving? I've noticed it in a few clips. So this goes back to my question about automatics. I've noticed that cut quite a bit too in your offense. Take us through that.
Obviously, we want whoever that top guy. I don't want to say automatic, but it kind of is because we're always talking about cutting.
Right.
So that guy has to cut because we want the entry post guy to now move to replace, to not stand in the same spot. So that cut allows him to move once he makes that cut. And then our weak side guy, whether it's the four, whoever it is now going to try to cut and flash right to the middle, if that makes sense.
It does. And then Mike DK, being Mike DK, giving us some advanced options on your set there. He said you can also adjust with a pass to the stagger boomerang, DHO, and follow with a stagger screener to play pick and roll. And Mike, honestly, I'd have to see that drawn up to work it out, but it sounds like it works in my opinion.
I might hit you up and do that because I didn't have enough time to get every option in, and I wanted.
No. So the one I was talking about, like I like the pass to the stagger, but right now it's more of a DHO. But if you pass it to the stagger, most likely the defense from the guy who has the ball right now is caught flat-footed because he's watching the ball. If you immediately go into a DHO with that guy, so actually a boomerang DHO and followed by the high man now is setting a screen on him, you might end up in a pick and roll. Though the negative on that is that you might end up with a pick and roll to the double side or to a single side. It depends on what you want to do. Same with this option, because with this option, I would say let the corner cut back door. So you really have the option of like going all the way.
Yeah, your guy right-handed, strong hand, they can't ball side help. It becomes really difficult in that.
No. So on if you initiate that DHO right now, that your corner guy cuts to the other corner, and he might even get a stagger screen on that side as well. If you look at it, you can have a stagger or a double screen because the guys are right.
Yeah.
So he's bringing this gentleman out.
Yeah.
Like that, and then now you're able to attack downhill to the empty side.
Yeah.
So Mike, now it goes back to that play we showed earlier. Menelik, remember when they ran their guy through and our guy Terrell didn't stop in the paint?
Yeah.
So now you get that same kind of action off that.
Right. So this gentleman might or probably does stop right here in the paint. And then, if he can make that pass, you're wide open out there for a three.
Yeah. And like I said, you can almost not really elevator or stagger or double screen with the two bigs that are already down there. They can just stay on the blocks outside of the paint, of course, and just be an additional obstruction to not really screen, because the defense will most likely play help side and not even know that his guy is open in the corner on the weak side.
Love it. I'm gonna clear all drawings and we'll move to the next clip. Mike doing elite things. That is Elite Academy in Antwerp. He's a great coach and a former guest on here. I highly recommend everybody check out his Run It Back as well. So Coach Huff, let's get into the next one here. We got defending. This is similar set to one of the earlier ones. It's that wing entry UCLA. But I mean, he rejects and just takes it to the hole, finishes what he's got to do. Give me the walkthrough. How do you correct it other than being angry that it happens, obviously?
Malik does a horrible job, turns his whole back, doesn't see the ball, and by the time he gets back over, it's too late. If we go back, let me see. So again, this is where scouting comes in, and this is why it's really important for guys to do what they're supposed to do. So a lot of people could say, well, why isn't Bryce, who's number 22 or 24, where's their help in this? Well, those are their two best shooters. And so we said no help off them. And so that means that the job of the help had to come from Malik, and he didn't do his job. And so him not doing his job meant that it put himself and our team in a bad position from their most athletic guy who rejects a ball screen and flushes it on us.
What about the teaching point of, like, say on a wing ball screen or even a slot ball screen? You've gone away from switching at this point in the game, but do you teach forcing the ball handler into the screen, forcing them into it?
Yeah, I don't think Hector did a great enough job of forcing them because, again, number one, you want to force them into the ball screen, but also scouting report wise, we told them that this guy with the ball, 15, loves driving baseline.
Right.
Like that is exactly what he wants to do. So we probably should have known he was going to reject that ball screen, no matter what. And we just didn't do a great enough job of doing what we're supposed to do to get back in it. And I think, we get caught up sometimes as players. We watch the clock. And in our mind, we're up 12 right here.
Right.
We can kind of put it on cruise. And that's that mentality that we got to have to finish games, which we didn't do a great job with early in the season. And we got better as the season went along.
Yeah, so James says basically the same thing about forcing them into and over. We got another zone offense clip. Thought this was another good adaptation, which I didn't spell correctly in my notes, just noticing it. Is this a quick hitter or is this concepts, basically, is what I was looking at. It's just a nail entry, drive and dish to the guy who is on the opposite short corner. Are they just playing within their concepts, or is this actually
playing within our concept, making sure we have a guy in the high post, making sure we have a guy in the short corner, attack in the middle of the zone, and then just playing off each other?
Both times that they went zone in this game, in my opinion, they were out within 2 to 3 possessions.
Right.
Just a testament to how prepared your gentlemen were and how well they executed within it. This is a neat little set that I would actually steal. Brings the game to within 5. It's I think it's at the 2-minute mark, really. It's a horn set. It's a wing entry. There's a wedge screen, but then there's a pin down from the point man that results in a hit 3, and it brings the game to within 5, as I said. So my first question is, did you have this set, or did coach make a good adjustment and kind of catch it up?
Coach made a great adjustment, and he caught us with this because we hadn't seen this. We had not seen this at all.
Right.
And it caught us, especially because we weren't switching anymore.
Right.
And so they got us with it because we weren't switching. Had we been switching, they don't get this.
Right.
But he knew that we weren't switching anymore, and he caught us with one.
I mean, sometimes you got to pat a guy on the back and say, good job. But,
and he got his best shooter to shot at the top, too, which was like, he knew exactly where he was going with it.
And this is a great pin down screen at the top, too. This is a smaller guy taking a bigger guy and taking that hit on the chest. But, they're still in the zone. You guys come back with a couple probes and hit a really big shot to give it the amount of space, in my opinion, basically ices the game. My question on this is not so much about like the concepts. I think we've definitely covered that. But how do you feel about players going shot for shot with the other team? Do you feel that it increases the competitive nature, or do you want guys to play their own game and not worry about those kind of personal attacks, so to speak?
I think if you're a competitor, period, that there are going to be some times where if you're good enough, you having a good game, there may be a time where you're like, nah, that's not happening. I'm finna go get a bucket.
Right.
But we really want to stick to our team concept and do what we're trying to do.
So, I mean, with this against the zone, I'm just running the clip for anybody who's listening. But all it is a couple probe dribbles, a fill in behind, and then a big time shot that just places the game, in my opinion, basically out of reach. With the 90 seconds, you're up 8. And then you guys get one more that I think this is, the straw that breaks the camel's back right at the 1-minute mark. They stayed in the zone, you attack, drop off, dunk down the center of the floor. And I mean, you can just kind of see all the air go out of the tires, so to speak. They play a bit of the foul game afterwards, but you guys come away with the W. I just kind of briefly wanted to show what the end of the game looked like. But, in going through, Coach, is there anything you mentioned in prep, but in terms of from the video, is there anything that you would say you missed out on that you should have done more of, done less of, all that kind of stuff?
I told you we were horrible defensively. I told you that when we first got on. I did not like our defense, but it was one of those games where we were locked in offensively. We made shots. If I'm going back to the box score, I believe we made 11 threes that game.
Right.
We took more shots than they took, which is always good. We had 24 assists, which
Love
we talked about 1.5, 15 or more. We had 24. And to me, the biggest part, and I know we're not talking about a different game, but I want to use this as an example. So in this game, we talk about how we use our bench. So number 2, who made big shot after big shot for us in a lot of those clips,
Right.
he came off the bench for us. He scored 29 points off the bench.
Wow.
For us. Our bench outscored their bench 59-13.
Love it.
And then if you go to the championship game the next day, like I rolled my starters the whole second half because they were playing so well. And defensively versus a better offensive team, we held them to 60 points the next night. So you got to win in different ways in this game of basketball on different days. And I think that night in the semifinals, our offense was able to carry us. We were locked in on exactly what we were supposed to do. And I think the second night, our defense carried us, which is supposed to happen in a conference tournament. Like your legs are tired.
Right.
You got to rely on something different than your jump shots and everything like that. So, and we rebounded. You know, we got 15 offensive rebounds in this game. So,
Well, Coach, in my opinion, it was a great job. I can actually really see your personality in your team after watching one of your games now, for sure. Getting to know you, I know that these guys, they're playing for you. I can see it. I want to end it here. This is a new question. You're the first one to get this, actually. But I've now, yeah, lucky you, right? I think this is a good place to end. In terms of post-game breakdowns, are you allowing your players to talk about wins and losses in the locker room after the game? Are you delivering like a post-game summary? And then afterwards, what kinds of things are you doing to, reinforce or go back and correct, errors that you might have made or good things that you did throughout the game? And then how do you do something like that where you only have a one-day turnaround for your championship game the next day, so to speak?
So basically, we allow them to, enjoy the moment. You got to enjoy moments, man. I think too many times we get caught up in whether, got to move on to the next one. Man, enjoy that moment right there.
Right.
I told mine, I said, let us as coaches worry about tomorrow. Y'all enjoy this moment. When you wake up tomorrow, then tonight's over with. But enjoy getting to this point, especially with everything that was going on in the world with COVID, us starting our season, not even getting on campus on January 4th, starting our season 8 days later. So I wanted them to enjoy the moment. And normally what we try to do in situations is send. I remember I learned this from Coach Byington. And how we would do it at Georgia Southern was good, bad, and ugly. That was kind of really quick of what we liked,
Right.
didn't like, and what was really bad from the previous game. And so that's kind of what I've carried over and done here is good, bad, ugly. You don't get to do it right away because obviously you're at the conference tournament. But once we got back, even though we were so happy we won the conference tournament, like, all right, we got some good, bad, and ugly. Some of those clips you saw defensively was some of our bad, some of our ugly actually. But we had a lot of good in that too. So that's kind of how we handle it on our end.
Yeah. And to your credit, to your athletes' credit, a lot of people don't really realize what many of the athletes went through to have a season this year, right? So nothing but respect for those gentlemen and yourself for being able to conduct it, because we've been locked down for over a year up here and haven't had basketball. So I only tip my hat to them to be able to get all the way through. Coach, if nobody else has any questions, Mike DK's putting it in the chat. I didn't say my typical, I've asked you for 90 minutes. We're a few minutes over. So, thank you for your time. I want to be respectful of it. But I'm good to wind it down there. I really, really appreciate your time. Getting to know you over the past year has been awesome. And, lots of little tidbits all over the place of just great knowledge in here, I think, for anybody who chimes in. So thank you so much. And I appreciate all the coaches that jumped on and listened. That's all I got, sir. But, thank you.
Appreciate you, man. This was great. I love breaking down film and watching, even when I get mad at stuff we didn't do. Because that was some defensive stuff. Boy, I wish I could get him in the gym right now. Like get on the line.
baseline, gentlemen. Let's
Right.
go.
But this is really good, man. And especially in this time of the year, it's what we're doing as coaches. Yes, we're recruiting. We're trying to build our team. But we're trying to get better too. Like, what can we do to get better? Like,
Right.
what Mike gave me, like, shoot, I'm looking at that already to put a little wrinkle into that play for us, man. So
I'd be
really
happy to
appreciate it.
connect you guys. He's an excellent mind, just like yourself, for sure.
So I
all
appreciate
right.
you, Menelik. Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to stop the recording there. Feel free to hang around, gentlemen, for a few minutes if you guys want to chat. Sometimes coaches have questions that they don't want on film. So obviously that's a good way to learn and get better. Thanks again, everybody, and I'll see you next week.